Every decision, every move made on the battlefield shapes the fate of a nation. Today, we are witnessing an operation that demonstrates once again how the determination and modern warfare tactics of Ukraine's Azov strike group are gaining the upper hand on the ground. Superior technological support from unmanned aerial vehicles enables brave troops like the Azov group to achieve success in their missions. Let's dive into the details of this epic battle and see how Ukraine's determination led to victory. In the last months of 2024, the Azov assault group launched a bold offensive against the Russian invaders in the rural settlement of Nelipivka. Russian forces claimed to have captured the village on September 30th, 2024. But what was the final situation? Intelligence indicated that the Russian army was heavily entrenched in this area. Based on this information, the Azov militants began to carefully comb the area. Every corner, every building, every bunker was scrutinized. The war was won not only by firepower, but also by strategic acumen. Ukrainian troops advancing on the ground were supported from the air by unmanned aerial vehicles. Russian soldiers were spotted hiding in a building. A Ukrainian soldier shouted through a megaphone into the building. If they refused to surrender, he said, bombs would be dropped on them from the Ukrainian-made Baba Yaga drone. Baba Yaga is known both for its high-precision strike capabilities and its psychological impact on the enemy. Despite the warnings, most of the Russian soldiers in the building decided to resist. The Ukrainian soldiers then threw a grenade into a ventilation shaft leading to the cellar. After the explosion, silence reigned from inside. Only one of them agreed to surrender and came out and raised his hands.
Сюда ползи! На пол! На пол! Ползи!
The surrendered Russian soldier was immediately given first aid. This soldier claimed that his condition was serious and that he had lost a lot of blood. One of the Ukrainian soldiers, looking at the wounded man, calmly consoled him, saying, "If that were true, there would be a pool of blood under him." The youth of the surrendered soldier was striking. Born in 2001, he was probably facing the brutal reality of war for the first time. They took him to a safe area for treatment and questioning. The operation in the area was in full swing. One by one, Russian soldiers hiding in the building and the surrounding area were neutralized. Some Russian soldiers, realizing that their resistance was futile, began to surrender voluntarily. The rest stubbornly refused to surrender and faced a decisive intervention by Ukrainian troops. The Azov contingent continued the systematic clearing of the area. Every building, every bunker was checked and enemy elements were neutralized. At the end of the operation, 4 Russian soldiers were captured, while those who continued to resist were completely neutralized. Close to this incident, intelligence was received that enemy soldiers were in a house in rural New York. This information was important enough to change the course of the operation. Ukrainian troops moved quickly to confirm the presence of the enemy. With information from intelligence sources, the target area was mapped and an operation plan was drawn up. The calmness and coordination of the soldiers was critical to the success of the operation. Suddenly, enemy soldiers were detected in a nearby building. This detection directed the attention of the entire team to this location. The movements of the enemy soldiers were carefully observed and their positions were assessed. Ukrainian soldiers immediately opened fire to neutralize the enemy. The fighting around the building soon intensified and both sides tried to hold their positions. Unmanned aerial vehicles came into play during the operation and played a critical role. Superiority in the air gave Ukrainian troops a great advantage. Instead of attacking the enemy building directly, Ukrainian troops took a more strategic decision. The plan was to go around it and completely surround the enemy. This maneuver required the team to split into different groups and act in unison. The troops took up a coordinated position to completely encircle the enemy. This move completely blocked the enemy soldiers' exit routes and reduced their chances of escape to zero.
Наши с другой стороны. Наши с другой стороны уже есть. Стоп, голову же нам.
During the clashes, grenades were used to break the enemy's resistance. The effect of the grenades made the enemy positions vulnerable. This intervention before entering the building greatly reduced the danger inside. Grenades were used as an effective means of attack, especially in confined spaces and enclosed spaces.
Себя оторвал чужую. А? Подорвался? Понимаешь, как внутри дома было. Давай пойдем тебя робоча.
This move lowered the morale of the enemy soldiers and allowed Ukrainian troops to advance safely into the building. Ukrainian fighters entered the building with great care. Each room had to be carefully checked because there could still be active enemy soldiers inside. In the first room, several neutralized enemy soldiers were found.
Давай, у нас в хате 200, 5 конкурс. 3 там на входе еще 200 поправочек. Был код, сожалению, не откроется. По возможности достань рабочий телефон, пофоткай для своих. Так. Ничего в карманах.
The weapons and ammunition on these soldiers were examined.
В доме плюс телефон, плюс картинка. Так, калахи были быть, так нет, того нет. Рюкзаков, спой.
Among the items were ammunition boxes and rifles. As the cleaning work continued, new enemy elements were encountered. There were neutralized enemy soldiers in different parts of the building. Every corner, every room was carefully scanned. In the process, not only enemy soldiers were identified, but also weapons and equipment used during the conflict. Ukrainian troops took control of the ammunition left behind by the enemy.
Брать тут, не разобрать, да выкинуть.
A Ukrainian soldier took an AK-47 rifle belonging to a neutralized enemy soldier and disassembled it. This was done in order to prevent the weapon from being used again. The neutralization of weapons further limited the mobility of enemy forces. Finally, the building was completely cleared, and the operation was successfully completed. Ukrainian soldiers ensured security in the area and completely ended the enemy's presence there. Ukraine's courage and ability to use technology on the battlefield continue to be decisive in this difficult struggle. But these victories are a reminder of the high price of freedom. Each stage of the war is etched in the pages of history as a test of human will and endurance. Follow us to keep up to date with every step Ukraine takes in this struggle. Stay tuned for more content and the latest information. We hope to move forward together in Ukraine's story of resistance.